Hello. I hope if anybody ever says to you again that you mustn't judge art but let time judge it, that you will contradict them in my name, and I hope also in your own name. I hope I made it clear to you that time is not something impersonal passing in a calendar or on a clock. It's not something which is, august and distant. Time is made up of people making judgments, people just exactly like you and like me. People saying, well, I'll keep this, and then saying, no, I'll throw this away. And keeping and throwing away and keeping and throwing away until then people say time made the judgment. But it wasn't time. It was people, sometimes people in authority and sometimes not. And sometimes, of course, disaster that destroys things that would have been kept otherwise. But usually it is an actual person deciding that this is good, this is bad, and keeping the thing which is good. And that's something which we can all do, and I think we all should do. I think that we owe this to ourselves, mainly because, as you remember, to let time do it is to deprive ourselves of fun. It's to deprive ourselves of something which is, in a way, our natural heritage, our natural right to make a judgment about art. So this time on calendars and on clocks, I'm going to throw away. It's for the birds. It's not for us. We found this handsome little notation which must come directly from the gods in the studio when I came in. Time on clocks out, partly out of stubbornness and partly because it doesn't exist. But then the other kind of time that means loving care, time that means the person took this much time to make the thing, and much more importantly, that this much time was taken to make the person able to make the thing. Because that's much more important, though I don't want to disparage entirely the amount of time that goes into the making of a work of art. That has some importance. Just because we as human beings, and all of these, you know, are human judgments, return to our human nature because art is a human thing. These judgments have, I think, always some quality of truth to them, that this took this much time. It means that the person valued this enough to give it this much time. Time, that most priceless thing that we have. He valued this work enough to give it that much time. But even more importantly, in terms of loving care, is the time that passed that made him ready and able to make this thing. Now, it might be in terms of training. It might be in terms of actually developing enough skill, enough command of his hands, enough command of the pencil or the piece of charcoal or the brush or whatever it is, enough command so that the thing which is in his mind he can put down on the paper or on the wall or on the canvas or wherever it may be. That kind of loving care in terms of skill. But also another thing which is much more difficult to describe or to even perhaps to convey, which is the kind of thing which happens inside of him and makes him ready and able to have the kind of conception which he has that makes the work of art. And it might be his own suffering, it might be his own joy, it might be any number of things, you see, that made a readiness in him, and that is a part of the loving care of time in the work. And then we said another aspect of time, the time to get bored with something, which lets you decide that you don't like this thing, because it is boring, because it isn't able to interest you for a long enough time. And that's a judgment which you can make in terms of your own lifetime. You don't have to wait for 500 years to be bored by something, not at all. And if your judgment is wrong in your lifetime, I think you don't have to worry. If 500 years later you are proved wrong, that will not really bother you, I think, very much, provided that you lived that long. So the time to be bored can be a short time, and in this way you're making a judgment which is based on time. But it's time inside of you, not inside of the work. Now the thing which I haven't used as a judgment is beauty. Beauty that which used to be thought of as the first way of judging a work of art. Is it or is it not beautiful? And I haven't mentioned it because, well, for several reasons. One, because I think that beauty belongs far more in nature than in art, as there is more beauty, actually, in nature than there is in art. And if a work of art existed because of man's desire to show beauty, or even to hold and capture beauty, I think works of art wouldn't exist at all. Because beauty is so prolifically provided in nature. There's so many things which are utterly beautiful. Some that can stay around, some that can't. Flowers can't, but flowers are in a way more beautiful than any work of art. If you like exquisite exactness of pattern, if you like color, no matter what you like, you can find some kind of a flower that will give it to you, and give it to you, I think, far more than any artist can. Actually, than any artist can. But you say a flower dies. So the artist then preserves this beauty. But what about the beauty of shells, or the beauty of precious stones, or semi-precious or not at all precious stones? The beauty of shells, I'm bringing you one which I have around the house because of its beautiful shape and its color and its form. I don't even pretend to have a shell collection. I sometimes wish I had. But there you have beauty that is already preserved for you. It's going to be there. It is there. It won't fade like a flower. It won't disappear. You can keep it. In fact, you can hand it down to your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren. And it's perfectly beautiful. In the way nature requires your own eyes maybe more than art does. Because one of the things about nature is color. And the beauty of the pink of this, which you can't see, is one of the things that makes it lovely. Those awful things that I have to eat don't seem to help me much. But here, you have a combination of the roughness and extreme smoothness of form that is always a part of beauty. Art couldn't give it to you, I'm afraid. You couldn't make an imitation of it, and I'm not sure that you could make anything half as good. Even the most casual thing in nature. You see, this is just a branch, a little vine. In many ways, it is more beautiful than the picture I showed you yesterday. More beautiful in the curve that it has. More beautiful in the variety of the leaves. More beautiful in the fact that it's living. Now, nothing could be commoner than this, I think. Maybe even the geranium. And this is just a part of nature. Just a tiny little piece of nature that I'm bringing you. You could go and stand by the sea and have beauty constantly, all day long, constantly changing, constantly with you. More beauty than any artist can give you. Free. Because nature is full of beauty. It isn't just in the mind of the beholder. It is full of beauty. And art would never exist at all. It simply wouldn't exist if beauty were the only thing that it could give, or the main thing that people wanted from it. It simply wouldn't exist. Because beauty is too much given us, too much there for us, and for us all to take. Sometimes I think art is more apt to cultivate ugliness than beauty. It's almost as if saying, this is our human thing, this art is our human thing. Nature is so full of beauty. For art, we won't have and we don't need beauty. I know some of you think that contemporary art cultivates ugliness instead of beauty. This is a face which is not beautiful, I think, by any human ordinary standards, but it's a beautiful work of art. And to show you something which is even perhaps less so, and mainly to show you something which is from a distant past. I know that you think of, you wouldn't be surprised by the lack of beauty in contemporary art. But this is certainly not beautiful, and this is from, 2,000 years ago. 2,000 years at least. And I'll show you another one which is, I think, not beautiful. These are Etruscan things. They're not meant to be beautiful, but meant terribly to be art, something else. Look at this. I'm making a terrible face at you. A face of mockery or anger or something. Certainly not beauty. And perhaps the easiest proof, the earliest example, the earliest instance of art, which I'll show you if you'll look at the slide just for a moment. That is from at least 25,000 BC. One of the earliest evidences of man, human being, man. And you may say, but it is beautiful. It is beautiful, but it was not made to be beautiful. It was made in darkness, and it was kept and preserved in darkness so it couldn't be seen. It was made to convey something to the people who gathered to make it, and what kind of ritual we don't know. But it was not made to decorate or to be beautiful or to be charming, and that we do know. I'll see you tomorrow.